Hello and welcome everyone to the Winning from Within podcast. I am your host, Ricco McAdory, and our mission here is to help you embrace more of your true identity, amplify your authority, and dominate your space without compromising your authentic value. And this is Winning from Within, so we're dealing with identity leadership. I am the author of Your God-Given Identity. That book was written a few years ago. What I didn't know was that it was going to be speaking to the times that we're in right now. And I didn't know that I would meet such great people just off a conversation from that book. So today, for the first episode, I want to really share some things that I believe will be helpful to you, very insightful, but I believe that it will bring clarity to you. We live in a time right now where everything is happening. I mean, technology is moving so fast, change is happening so exponentially. But here's the thing. It's possible to get caught up into those things around us, but really miss the diamonds and the gems within us. And so we want to really help focus on that. I'll share some things that are going to really help take you to the next, I wouldn't say level, but the next dimension by going deeper within. So if you're ready to take off, I'm ready to go. And here's the thing. I would say, yes, I'm doing this podcast now, but we're going to have other guests on here as well to share their impact of how and what identity means to them. So without that or any further being said, I'm ready to roll. What about you? All right, so here we go. We're going to talk about today how to stand out as a thought leader. How to stand out as a thought leader. Now think about that. We're living in a time now where things change at the speed of thought. In fact, it's not like what it used to be, where it was conventional. I mean, things that used to take months and years, or things that used to take years to do, now take months, sometimes even weeks. But here's the thing. If you haven't really discovered who you are, it's easy to get caught up into things on the left and on the right side, trying to copy what already exists instead of being the authentic version of yourself that God made you to be. See, you're so uniquely designed. You're marked to stand out. You were born to be different. You were not born to be a copy of what already exists. So with that being said, here's what I want to tell you. You are not a mistake. You are an intention in the mind of God. I want to say that again. You're not a mistake. You're an intention in the mind of God. So in this, I'm going to talk about 3 keys, but I'm going to give you a bonus key. All right. So we're going to talk about IPA. Now, in the business world, we hear IPA as income producing activity, right? But here's the thing. How I learned this in spending quiet time with God about you have to learn this IPA I'm going to discuss to be able to do the right income producing activity. What is that? That is identity, purpose, authority. Identity, purpose, authority. What do I mean by that? Well, identity is who are you? You as the individual. What's your unique fingerprint? Who are you deeply on the inside? That's what makes you different. That's what makes you stand out from a crowded place, right? So you're a king, you're a queen. King or queen of what? In this case, I say identity king for me because that's the area I specialize in, right? So I am a king, you are a queen in the kingdom. So you identify as royalty. You are in the identity of the greater king, right? And you are an expression of who he is and what thought he had in his mind before time even began. Before you even came, you already came loaded with an idea and a purpose that was needed for right now. So when you look at identity, who are you? Number 2 is purpose. This one right here deals with why. Why are you here? Let me say it this way. What problem made your birth or your presence necessary? You see, you're born to solve something. You're born, there was something that was here before you got here so that when you're here and when you leave here, it will be impacted in a greater way than before you came. Transformation should take place, but guess what? The purpose, the reason why. What is the problem that makes you, or what's the problem that you're supposed to solve that's going on in the earth right now? And then number 3 is authority. Okay, it's like, what way do you influence? How do you change? Or what way do you express your identity and purpose? Is it speaking? Is it writing? Is it music? Is it singing? Right? What way influences the people to pay attention to what it is that you have to say? Or let me ask it this way. When we say authority, what change have you been authored to create? Now, I didn't say that word wrong, or you may think I probably created a word, but actually I didn't. I just said authored. Now, how do you spell that? Well, like author, A-U-T-H-O-R, but I just capitalized that and then lowercase e and lowercase d, authored. Why am I putting emphasis on authored? Well, it talks about authority, but if you look at the root word of authority, it is author. Most times when you hear authority, you hear it as a negative description, being told what to do, being bossed around, or maybe you've been someone who's experienced that from leadership. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about authority. When you look at it from the root word author, that definition means one who creates. So what change have you been authored to create? But I got one more I'm going to share as a bonus later, but stay tuned and you'll know what it is. So IPA, in order to do the right income producing activity, you got to know your identity, purpose, and authority. Now, what does that do? Or when we say identity, we hear a lot about thought leadership, right? I mentioned that, I touched that a little bit earlier. But why is thought leadership so big? What makes thought leadership so unique? See, if my thoughts is what makes me stand out in a crowded marketplace. In fact, I said thought leadership is when an organization or individual is considered an authority within an industry or particular field. The opinions and advice of thought leaders are sought after and often recognized industry-wide. So when I say thought leader, what is it about you? What is the thought process that when people enter your presence, they're like, okay, I'm changed, I'm transformed. I never saw it in that way. I'll give you an example from me personally. Once I understood, I always knew it was meant to impact, right? But once I got clear on who I am, as a teacher on identity and leadership, once I understood that and I understood the vein of which I operate in, then it helped me clearly understand the people who kept coming to me. They kept coming to me with clarity type questions about who they were. And every time they would come to me about those questions, I would actually answer them in a way. It could have been something simple, but they had been struggling with it. They couldn't see it. But because I was able to share something with them, they saw it from a different perspective and they left changed. Well, when one person started saying it, a few other people started coming around. And then next thing you know, now more people are like, okay, now I know when I talk to you, I get a sense of clarity of who I am. So as a thought leader, I'm talking more on identity, leadership. What does that look like? Let me break that down. Let's talk about the leadership. We're still in identity right now. Let's talk about the leadership. We hear a lot of leadership is taught from behavior. Changing of behavior. Yes, you should change. That is correct. I believe that. But my editor, Dr. Larry Kefauver, shout out to him, he actually said something because he's written for quite a few, even influential leaders that if I mentioned their names, you would know. And he says the difference as a ghostwriter for them and then helping me write this book, Your God-Given Identity. Here's what he said. He said the difference between what you're doing and what they do is they're talking about leadership in terms of behavior, what to do. You're sharing it from the perspective of who to be. Be leadership. How to show up as your authentic self, not a copy of someone else. So, thought leadership is really you showing up authentically as you. It's not you. Yes, you learn from mentors, you have coaches, you have them around, you learn from them. But here's the thing, don't actually copy and be them. Now, let's look at it this way. As a coach and a mentor, yes, I'd like for you to succeed, but really, I don't want you to be a copy of me or a miniature version of me because you have a unique fingerprint that's different from mine. I don't want them, I don't want the people that are supposed to come looking for you for something looking to me because they'll be thinking about me instead of you. No, there's something unique that you have that they need. They're looking for you to share your uniqueness to help them win. Now, here's the thing I will say to you, write this down. There may be other people that may be in the same industry as you, but they can't be and do like you. It's possible to do and have certain results without ever becoming who you're supposed to be. But how much more effective will you be when you become, then do the thing you're becoming and have the results from there? So, thought leadership. Okay, so identity. Why is that important? Because when we look at the times we're in right now, so much change is happening, as I mentioned in earlier. And it's easier to get, watch this, distracted with what looks good while being blind to what makes you different. I heard a book by Jim Collins called Good to Great. And he says, good is the enemy of great. How many good things have we settled for, but missed the great thing that made us different? Just to fit in with what already is. When in fact, what already is will actually change. But if we don't see our uniqueness from within, what ends up happening is we become that's what is around us instead of actually releasing that which is within us. So identity, when I look at identity, that I believe is where the biggest attack is today. It's the biggest attack with our young people. It's the biggest attack with us. You know why? Because have you ever heard of the saying identity theft? Do you know that identity theft naturally is a manifestation of the original identity thief who actually convinced Adam and Eve to give up their rights to him so he can actually cause chaos. But he presented it in such a way that, it doesn't mean any harm. Listen, you know how he did it? And he still does it to this day to get us distracted from who we really are. He asked Eve a question in the garden. God had already told him not to eat from the fruit already. But what he didn't give dogmatic answers to convince Eve. He actually asked a convincing question. He asked, did God say? See, if you're not certain about who you are, anybody will question you when they ask that question to you. You're going to be like, well, I think he said. I think I know. No, when you're clear about who you are, regardless of what questions come your way, you're confident enough to stand on that, right? So identity, I believe, is a very foundational currency because if you don't know who you are, you give other people the opportunity to rob you. Ooh, how many times have I let people rob me because I didn't know who I was? How many times had I stayed in situations that were not for me, but they were comfortable to me at a place where I was? How many times did I stay small just to avoid conflict? But at one time, I got to a point where I got fed up. I said, I can't be in the corner anymore. Because if I remain in the corner, then the people that I'm called to will continue to stay lost. And what happens sometimes, instead of us moving by decision, sometimes things around us, the heat gets turned up, so we have to move. If we don't change by decision, we'll be forced to change one way or the other. That's how I came into who I am. I got hit with the fire. I got tired of being caged. I got tired of being constricted. So I had to not look at everybody else, but I had to get closer with God and look within. Like, God revealed to me what it is that makes me unique. What makes me the apple in your eye to influence the people you've called me to help? Who can you speak? Who do you want me to help? Who do you want to speak through me to help impact them? This, my brothers and sisters, is why identity is so important. And it's why if someone can steal your identity, they can steal your inheritance. I'll say that again. If they can steal your identity, they will steal your inheritance because they're distracting you with the carrot over here while they're taking behind your back the very thing that makes you different. I'm going to say this right here. When you know who you are, you don't have to settle for being a cheaper version of someone else. Being a cheaper copy of someone else keeps you small. And it keeps you in value. It devalues you. It dilutes your value. So how much longer are you going to hang out in the cage? Identity. Yes, we talked about that, identity and thought leaderships. Number one was identity. Number two, now we're talking about purpose. Now let's look at this. It's the why question. When I think about purpose, what is the engine that really makes me different? Or what is the problem that really stirs me so much so that I can't, it's almost like a teacher taking her nails. Remember that old school? She would take her nails and go down the chalkboard. I think about that to this day, and it still kind of gives me a little chill. But that's what it is. What problem is it that irks you? What problem is that makes you like, I see this issue, but everybody else may not see it, but you see it. But then when you see it and you step into who you are, now it becomes clearer what the purpose or what that why is. Now it becomes people like, okay, I never thought of it that way. See, when I look at identity, right, my job, yes, as talking about identity leadership, but the reason why my purpose is really to eradicate or expose the identity crisis and eradicate it with kingdom wisdom, right? So I can do that through speaking, coaching, right? But it's a problem that we're having in this earth right now. And I told you earlier, when I wrote that book, Your God-Given Identity, I had no clue it would be speaking to the times we're in right now. I mean, think about it. The foundation. Do you know what's interesting to me? When you don't know who you are and you don't know the purpose, it's like you'll settle for quick fixes, or you'll want to get to the platform without going through the process. See the purpose, the why behind it. What is it that makes you so different? What is it, the problem that is so big that it's almost like you can't sleep at night, but at the same time, you're excited because you get another opportunity each day you wake up to make an impact or eradicate that issue a little bit more. When I say purpose, when a person doesn't know their purpose, it's easier for procrastination to steal the future. When you don't know your purpose, it's easier, again, to imitate someone else. In fact, okay, I'm going to say this right here. When you don't know your purpose, it's easier to be programmed. So when you don't know your purpose, it's easier for you to be like, you allow self-sabotage to steal. I know about that. I dealt with self-sabotage to where it wasn't so much the fear of failure, but it was really more so the fear of success or the anxiety of success. Like I would struggle with certain thinking patterns and I didn't know how to get through them. But when I got clear on my purpose and why I am here, now when I wake up, even when I'm tired, because I have a sense of purpose now, even when I'm tired, I can still thrive. I'll give you an example this morning, a couple of examples. Now, I would say this, my sister in love, reached out to me the other day, going through a very tough time. She lost 3 people close to her in a short period of time. Did I feel like talking at the time? No, I didn't. But here's the thing, because I understood my purpose, my why, I was able to push past how I felt and really make an impact in her life. So the burden that she was dealing with, the fear she was dealing with, was able to be lifted because I was able to yield to God in the purpose he gave me to speak into her life. And now that burden lifted so much more than what she was when we first talked. Even so, she reached out to a friend of hers and said, look, bruh, I need you to talk to my friend. She's really going through right now, and it would really be helpful if you call her. I said, okay. In fact, I called her this morning, and they said, you know, she was going through a situation as well, dealing with sickness after sickness after sickness. I was to the point where I was so tired, I didn't know if I could actually deliver, but then I yielded because I understood my purpose, and I was able to share some things with her to change her life. She left from a depressed state to a joyful state, right? But if I didn't know my purpose, if I ignored that, I would have missed an opportunity for her to receive from God to transform her life. Her thinking pattern was she was thinking negatively about the next because of the negative past. She kept rethinking it. So we had to break that programming, right? So that's purpose, identity, purpose. What problem made you necessary? Dealing with an identity crisis. That's the problem that I'm dealing with, right? Now, the next thing is authority. All right. Again, I told you, authority, I'm not looking at it from the negative connotation. I'm looking at it from the positive, one who creates. Again, what change have you been authored to create? What makes you so unique? What solution or what wisdom do you have? Maybe it's a book that you have that you should be writing that you haven't written and you've been sitting on for quite some time, and people are waiting on your seed to change your life. I can say that there are 2 ways to keep your legacy alive, your dynasty rather, alive, is the videos you record and the books you write. Now, how do I know that to be true? We read the Bible. The Bible has been written thousands of years ago, and it's still speaking and revealing today. So that's your love letter to the people that you're called to have a conversation. And they're waiting on that conversation to open the door to further connection with you to help them overcome and win that challenge of life that they're dealing with. So that's authority. That's one authority. That's one thing. You may not be able to be the next Beyonce. You may not be able to be the next person that's the biggest influencer on a certain network. Okay, we get that. One of the ways I found that to really help as an authority tool is to write your own book. When I wrote that book, Your God-Given Identity, I kind of opened up some things that I never would have had if I didn't write it. And then when I go places, now I have something that says, okay, here's what you can read even after speaking or doing an event. Here's a book that we have. That book turned into a shirt. And that shirt, it turned into a coaching program, right? So it's the one thing that you have that could be a seed that could help. And so that's one of the ways as authority, whatever area you specialize in, a book could be a great way to open the door for that, right? Maybe in this, what I'm doing now, speaking. It could be the way you speak, the way you deliver. It's something about the way you share it that makes people never forget how you made them feel, right? That's what's important. And you got to recognize that. And this is why the enemy wants you to be blind to your effectiveness, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see it, you can't deny it. And here's the thing. Not only can you not deny it, the people you spoke to or wrote to can't deny it either. Now, that's identity, purpose, authority. All right? Now, when you look at this, I'm going to say this statement right here. I'm looking. When you know who you are, identity, and why you're here on earth, purpose, you position yourself to impact and create change as an authority. So we want to help you with this session concerning identity as we continue to go forward, and with other guests, you're going to see how they have become uniquely the authority in their area by being unique in who they are, true to who they are. Okay. So here is the one thing, the last one. Now, you've been waiting around. I'm glad you're still here. So here is the last, and I mean absolute last point, but it's a very important key. Now, If I said the first one is identity, that's who are you. The second one is purpose, why are you here? The third one is authority. What change have you been authored to create? The fourth one is assignment. That's your who. Who are you called to? Most times your who is a clue to what you're called to do. Again, the people that keep coming to you, they keep coming to you for a certain reason, and you keep actually helping them and they leave change. That's a clue. So once I understood who it was for me, leaders, right? Thought leaders, speakers, coaches, writers, creatives. Once I understood that and they keep coming to me, now I'm able to share some wisdom with them that's able to help. They can go into their world and transform their world and the people they're called to. Unlock potential that they had all along, but they never probably really saw because maybe no one valued them or no one understood the potential they had. Okay? So that's the fourth one, assignment. So IPAA, identity, purpose, authority, assignment. Now, whether you want to believe it or not, you have received great wisdom today. You have received a framework that I actually use to help overcome, even personally. I'm not telling you something that I'll do myself, but I have to use that because it helps me stay focused on what my assignment is. It helps me show up for you. In fact, it's why we're here with this podcast, for you, because there is something within you that your people are looking for you to help deliver for them, to help transform their lives. And I'm going to say this right now. You can write this down and come back a year from now or however, when you feel led to. If you don't show up, the people you're called to can't grow up. I'm saying it again. If you don't show up as who you authentically are, the people you're called to can't grow up in who they're supposed to be. So I'm telling you today, you are vitally important. You matter. And I'm going to tell you today that in spite of the challenges that you're dealing with, in spite of the shortcomings, in spite of the failings, you're not a failure. In fact, you're an impactor. In fact, you're a transformer. How you see yourself actually positions how other people can see you. If you see yourself as less than, then guess what? You're going to continue to attract other people that are less than. Not putting people down, but I'm saying whatever thought process you are thinking, that's what you're going to actually bring your way. And so today, I'm hoping that what you learned will help you to be more of who you're called to be, that authority, amplify that authority, dominate your space without compromising who you were designed to be. Again, I'm Ricco McAdory, your host. This is episode 1, the beginning of history, and it's going to be a life-changing experience that we have going forward, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode of Winning from Within. Until next time, bye for now.